Seb to do some introductory remarks, and then we'll move to an update on Russia, and then open to Q&A. So any questions you've got, just type away. I'm sorry we can't do it verbally. I know that's frustrating for all of you, but we'll try and get through every question you've got. So Seb, over to you.
Thank you, Jackie, and I'm delighted to be joined by our never-to-be-forgotten Chief Executive. Let me just, if I may, set the scene briefly, because, as you know, we've just emerged from 2 days of detailed council discussions. They were, of course, virtually driven, and we have done our best to accommodate within what I suppose we describe as the broadcast windows, the really meaty issues that we wanted to tackle. So it was a very good council meeting, but it did, of course, start off on a sad note, because I wanted to pay tribute, and I know that many of my colleagues around the table wanted to pay tribute to Frank Hensel, who sadly left us over the course of the weekend. There will be many on this call that will know Frank and his work for many, many years within the German Athletics Federation, and latterly, of course, as a vice president of the Council of European Athletics. And Frank was an athletics man to his fingertips. He came through a coaching background. He was instrumental in the delivery of 2 of our best championships historically, the 2009 Beijing, Berlin Championships, World Championships, and of course our 2018 European Championships. And we did allow the council just a moment to reflect on his life and his work. My opening remarks to the council, and they'll be pretty much the same as to you, and you won't be surprised when I say it, this has been, in aggregate, a tough year. We had the HQ updates and all the things that keep our organisation sound and focused, and John and the internal teams took us through that. But I wanted to focus really on the athletes, because it has in large part been the athletes that have driven the latter stage of our season and kept us front and centre, tough as that has been. And since our previous council meeting, we've delivered a World Championship. We delivered 6 Diamond League meetings. We delivered 7 Continental Gold Tour meetings, and 4 Continental Silver, 12 Continental Bronze. We've had some sizable road races, admittedly under adapted circumstances, including the London Marathon, Istanbul Marathon, and just recently the Delhi Half Marathon. But what we did focus on, and I wanted to make that point to our internal teams and our stakeholders, that our one World Championship in Gdynia, the World Half Marathon Championships, was really a synthesis, a suffusion of just fantastic, resilient relationships. You know, the greatest mitigator of risk in any organisation is the ability to harness close working cooperative relationships, and we really did from our HQ teams. And I have to say that's probably one of the tougher championships that we'd had to deliver. I did, of course, reflect that had we been just a couple of days or even 24 hours later, that probably wouldn't have taken place, because on the day of the championships, we moved, or the day before the championships, Gdynia moved into the red zone, COVID-wise, in Poland. We then, 2 days before that, the city was absolutely hit by monstrous storms and wind. And on the night before the championships, the eve of the championships, we had a fire in the Seiko timings and results hut that very nearly rendered us without any timing or results equipment at all. I was sort of at that point waiting for a plague of locusts to arrive. But it was the athletes that punched through, and in that extraordinary event, we had a world record, we had area records, we had, I think, 22 national records, and championship records as well. And only for the second time, 10 guys under 1 hour in aggregate for the marathon, the half marathon. We do have the opportunity to celebrate. Mercifully, there was enough of the season that we were able to resurrect and to get the athletes back into training and competition safely, to be able to at least celebrate those achievements on Saturday when we have our awards ceremony in various time zones. It really will be a global opportunity for us to thank the athletes, but also to reflect on the work that is often unsung, but that of the navigating skills of the coaches under these circumstances. And of course, we have awards this time really to reflect on the work that our member federations have done in order to keep our sport front of centre, whether it's education programmes all online, technical official congresses, or even staging events themselves at national level, or even contributing to regional support. We also agreed dates for our upcoming WAS events, which of course include pretty much most of next year. We are still in challenging times. There's no question about that. And the point that was really made very strenuously to the council was that we have a responsibility to be prudent in everything that we do. The sport is actually in good shape. We're in better shape than we probably were in many respects than we went into the pandemic, but we have to assume that this is going to be with us for some months, even with the light at the end of the tunnel around vaccines. And this will have an effect on the sport for 2 or 3 years, not just simply in terms of reformatting the jigsaw, but across the whole ecosystem. I think I will probably, Jackie, at that point, I will probably leave it at that, just to say that we, of course, had our regular update from Rune Andersson, chair of the Russian task force. And I will throw now to Rune to take us through his findings. Rune, thank you.
Thank you, Seb. As you're aware, the World Athletics Council asked RUSAF and its stakeholders to draw up a meaningful reinstatement plan and a roadmap to change the culture in Russian athletics that is athletes and the global athletes community needs and deserve. The previous regime failed to do so, but over the past few months, the foundation has been laid for the new RUSAF leadership that was elected on this Monday, to put in place such a plan. Well-qualified international experts have been appointed who will work on the ground with RUSAF in Russia, helping it to draw up a detailed strategic and operational plan with clear objectives and timelines. A new framework agreement has been put in place that sets out how the task force and the international experts will help RUSAF to finalize and implement the plan, and that commits RUSAF to continuing to pay the costs incurred by World Athletics in the process. The international experts have already begun working with the senior RUSAF management team and have reported that the team has been very responsive and constructive in its approach. The stage has therefore been set for the newly elected RUSAF president, Pyotr Ivanov. If he puts the necessary commitment and resources behind the project and wins the support for that effort of RUSAF's key stakeholders in Moscow and in the regions, then the task force and the international experts stand ready to help him achieve the reinstatement of RUSAF's membership of World Athletics and the reintroduction of its athletes to international competition. I had an introductory video call with Mr. Ivanov yesterday. We had an open and constructive discussion, and he expressed his determination to do what is necessary to achieve these goals. We agreed to stay in touch and to meet in person as soon as conditions allow. In the meantime, I have asked him to work closely with the international experts to move the project forward. Thank you.
That is great. Thank you, Rune. Just one other announcement to make. Seb, did you want to talk about the dates of our events in Bathurst and Belgrade, or would you like me just to cover that off?
Yes, no, I'm really happy to do that. We looked at those dates; they have been confirmed. And Jackie, this is probably not a bad moment for me to make the point about our team race walking championships in Minsk. We had, sorry?
Yes, sure.
Okay. We had a discussion on the events and the schedules. And given the circumstances in Belarus over the last few months, I had asked our risk committee and also our ethical compliance officer just to monitor that situation. But I felt that it was now worthy of just a little bit more than monitoring. So I have asked the risk committee to undertake a review of the circumstances where we will obviously be looking in advance at the potential around dates and also what we may have to do in response to some of those local circumstances. So yes, that was, I'm hoping, Jackie, that is what you were hoping I was going to cover off.
No, that's great. And just to let everybody know, although it will be in our press release, that Bathurst has moved from the 20th of March 21 to the 19th of February 22. Yeah. And then in Belgrade, our World Indoor Championships has moved from the 11th to 13th of March to the 18th to the 20th of March 22. But that will be in the in our press release as well.
And thank you, Jackie. That is clearly what you wanted me to say.
That was, but thank you for the rest of it. That's great too. I'm just going to hand over now to any questions. I'm looking at the chat and there's none. I'm hoping that someone's going to ask a question. Otherwise, it's going to be Mitch, hold on. Question for Seb or Rune. Is there a potential timescale for possible Russian return? So Rune, would you like to answer that one?
Sure, thank you. Well, it depends. It depends upon the circumstances. If the new regime in Rusev delivers in accordance with the plan, the strategic plan, the reinstatement commission, and also meets all the requirements that we have been set, this is the decision today that this can be reconsidered by the task force and with recommendation to the council. But we will have to see how the Rusev community responds to the strategic plan that has and will be put in place.
Okay, thanks, Rune. Any other questions, guys? Okay, James Ellingworth, question for you, Seb. Do you think athletes should get priority access to the coronavirus vaccine to help the Olympics and other major events go ahead? And second, would you support any meet which requires athletes to show that they have been vaccinated in order to compete? So that's to you, Seb.
Look, yeah, I'm really happy to take one. Look, that's a tough question. Look, we're living in a challenged world at the moment. We have to be reflective and respectful that, you know, there are going to be many demands in the first few months of the vaccine. Our frontline workers, the elderly, the vulnerable. I obviously hope that our athletes are in a position to make the most of the vaccination when it is being rolled out. It'll certainly, I think, expedite our ability to get some of our events up and running with a little bit more certainty. And clearly, I hope that they will play, the advent of the vaccine will play a really important part of the success of the Tokyo Games. I think and to answer the second part of the question, if the vaccine is available, and it's delivered in the right and proper and timely way, then clearly I would like athletes to avail themselves of it, so that it does give the meeting directors a little bit more certainty and clarity around who they can have there, and the safety that we all crave. So yes, I do want to see the athletes take that up, and I don't think it's unreasonable if it is available for the meeting directors and our meeting organisers to hope that they do that.
Thank you, Seb. I've just got there's sort of a few questions. So I'm just going to, Seb, there's a question for you following your comments about Belarus from Duncan about our view and whether there's been any discussion about the decision to replace the new chairman of the Belarus Federation from, I'm just going to read what it says, replacing one drug cheat with another. But don't answer that yet, because there's also two questions about whether we've heard and what our views are about cross-country, whether we've heard from the IOC, from Mark at L'Equipe, and also Franco Fava about the cross-country in Paris 2024. But while you're thinking about that, Mitch has come back, Rune, with one more question for you, just to follow up on his earlier one. Is a return in time for the Olympic Games feasible? So, Rune, do you want to have a crack at that one? And then Seb will come back to you on the Belarus president and cross-country. Thank you.
I can only answer in a way I did previously. If the Russian track and field delivers on the strategic plan and the reinstatement conditions, this will be considered by the task force, and we will give our recommendations to the council in due course. And that might be before the 1st of March, which is the deadline for delivering the plan to us. The 1st of March is a long stop, so they can do it before, and we will consider this prior to 1st of March if Rusev delivers.
Okay, thank you. Seb, Belarus and cross-country.
Yeah, look, I think that it was the first part of the question, really, that I can deal with here. Look, member federations conduct their elections in line with their own constitutions and their own congresses. However, I think we're pretty clear at World Athletics that no one that has served a doping ban would be able to hold an official position on the World Athletics bodies or any of our structures, and we're clear about that. But going back to my initial observation, member federations do conduct their elections in line with their own constitutions and their own congresses. The second one, I think, was cross-country. Look, cross-country is an exciting and frankly a growing discipline, and we are really committed to working with the International Olympic Committee to see if it can be included in future games. Regarding the specificity of Paris 24, we understand that the IOC Executive Board will be agreeing the event programme in its December meeting, actually quite shortly. And like all international federations, we will await the outcome of the decisions at that meeting.
Okay, thank you. And we've got a question for a comment from AFP on Caster Semenya taking her battle with World Athletics to the European Court. Seb, did you want to answer that?
Yes, and to be honest, I have very little to add to anything that I've actually said on this issue before. We will continue to fight and defend equal rights and opportunities for all women and girls in our sport today and in the future. We believe, and has been upheld by the Court of Arbitration and subsequently in the Swiss Federation Court, that our regulations were lawful, they were legitimate, and they represent a reasonable and necessary proportionate means of ensuring exactly what I outlined a few moments ago, that we have the rights of all female athletes to participate on fair and equal terms.
Okay, thank you. And again, for you, Seb, or for John, do you have any update about having future World Championships in Tokyo, as you mentioned during your last visit in Japan? I mean, obviously, we've got the Continental Tour event, but any other championships?
Look, you know, I will always take the opportunity wherever I travel, and John and I and our competition teams had a very successful 48 hours in Tokyo. We came away absolutely of the view that there is a cast iron determination to do whatever they can safely and soundly, and with the welfare of the athletes always tantamount, to deliver these championships. And I never lose any opportunity in any major city I'm in of promoting the opportunity for our sport to be hosted in that city. So yeah, we had very good discussions, and obviously we will shortly enter the new bidding round for the 2025 World Championships. But I'm also pleased that there are expressions of interest from around the globe, which is exactly what we want.
Okay, thank you. And then a question from Ismail from Runner's World. How can we ensure, or what are we doing to ensure the presence of all countries in Nanjing in 2021, our World Indoor Championships?
Well, look, you've heard me discuss this issue before. It is really important that our global championships are supported. You know, the more federations, the better the shop window for our sport, the more opportunity we have to align that feature to our strategic plan of getting more people, more participation, more partnerships, and certainly broadening the fan base on our athletes of the shop window. And of course, I want all our top athletes to recognise the importance and precedence that major championships always hold.
Okay, thanks, Seb. I've got another one for just follow up to the vaccine question from James AP. You say you would encourage Hope athletes get vaccinated before competition, but would you support meets if they made the decision to require, i.e. it's mandatory, before athletes can compete?
Look, I think there has to be some proportionality here. You can't force anybody to do anything. I mean, you know, the general population will make a judgment about whether they want to avail themselves of the vaccine. All I would say is that it would be a prudent thing to do, given that it is available, given that it can protect a large part of their season and not just an element of it. And that if they can avoid having COVID-19, then I think they're probably in better shape to maintain the consistency of performance and training that they need.
Great, thanks, Seb. We've also, there are a few other questions, but just coming, John, maybe one for you. We've got a question from NBC saying, has World Athletics applied for any events to be added for Paris 24 other than cross-country? John?
Yes. Hello, everyone, by the way. Yes, we applied for made the request for 2 additional events. One was the mixed team relay cross-country event, and we think that's a really engaging event, and we're very committed to that to the future, as Seb has just said. The other one was the 50-kilometre race walk for women as well. So we would look to create gender balance there with a men's and women's 20-kilometre walk and a men's and women's 50-kilometre walk as well. So there are 2 requests we put forward to the IOC for Paris 2024.
Okay, thank you, John. And then there's another question about Shauna Miller-Webu, and she shared how disappointed she is regarding the ruling concerning the missed whereabouts test of the athlete Nasser. Are her concerns being heard at World Athletics, and is it true that the ruling is being appealed? Seb?
Yes, hello, Shawnee.
No, it's not Shawnee.
Oh, sorry.
It's about Shawnee Miller.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said it was. Yeah. Okay. No. Yes. The answer to that is very clear. The AIU has appealed against the decision to CAS. We have, of course, World Athletics has no input into the case management and those decisions, but we understand the process. And look, I've openly said it. I think we do understand that the process can sometimes be frustrating, but the system must be independent and it must be robust and thorough in order to maintain complete integrity.
Okay, thank you, Seb. I've got a question here from Andrea at La Gazzetta, which I'm just going to answer because Andrea, it was a question about will we be moving our race walking team championships from Belarus, and just to reiterate what Seb said at the beginning, the risk committee will be looking at this, and there will be a discussion at the March Council about that particular event. Next question. Some athletes have continued to express concerns that the pandemic restrictions allow drug cheats to avoid and beat testing while training and remaining at home. One even gave the example of an athlete feigning coronavirus symptoms to get out of a doping control test while at home. Is this a significant concern for you? And what is being done to keep anti-doping measures a successful deterrent during these times? Seb, did you want to say anything to that? I'm also really happy to put that question, Brian, to the AIU straight after this meeting.
Yes, look, I can give a little bit of colour to this. Look, within the confines of appropriateness, I do discuss, broader policy implications with the Athletics Integrity Unit. I think we were clear at the beginning of the pandemic that this would pose some significant challenges to us. I was pleased that our national anti-doping agencies around the world, the Athletics Integrity Unit and WADA, were still able to maintain as best they could comprehensive testing programs. I made the point to the athletes, look, at that stage, don't think you're going to be in a test-free zone. You're not. And do treat issues like whereabouts and the protocols around anti-doping very, very seriously. I did have the opportunity just recently to have a virtual meeting with the new president of WADA. And we both agreed and discussed the need to make sure that throughout this pandemic, we were as vigilant and as clear as we possibly could be about maintaining a downward pressure on any tendency in any part of our sport for people to see this as a sort of test-free, testing holiday. So yeah, challenges, but I'm pretty comforted that the best people understand what those challenges are and are meeting them.
Okay, thanks, Seb. And Brian, if you would like us to put that question also to the AIU, let us know and we will. Two questions for you, Rune, from Duncan from Inside the Games. First is, was there any discussion about the ANA program coming back online in time for next year's World Athletics Indoor Championships in Nanjing? And the second question, also from Duncan, is could you give the names of the international experts who are working in partnership? You might want to name them, Rune, but just Duncan, so you know, they are also included in the task force report that we will make public any moment. Rune, over to you, and then Hiroki will come to your question.
Thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Duncan. Well, we have discussed events that takes place next year on the ANA status for Russian athletes. We will have to wait to see, but there is a possibility, of course, if everything goes in accordance with what we hope for with the new RUSAF leadership. We will discuss it and we will see how far they have come, and we will be ready to recommend to the Council what the next steps will be in terms of the ANA status for athletes. On the names, yes, I do have the names. One being the former Director General, Deputy Director General of RUSADA, Margarita Pachdunovskaya. Another one is Vladas Stankiewicz, who is a change management specialist who speaks Russian and who will spend a lot of time in Moscow and dealing with those issues. And lastly, Peter Nicholson, who used to be a WADA expert in getting RUSADA up and running when this was back 2 years ago, I think. So those are the three names.
Okay, thank you, Rune. And Hiroki, your question is, and it's to you, Seb. Any updates, concerns brought up by your members on the qualification of the Tokyo Olympic Games? Are there contingency plans if some countries cannot hold their events? By their events, I'm assuming those are their qualifying events to qualify for the Tokyo Olympic Games. So any questions being raised by our members about this, Seb?
No, there weren't any specifically. I mean, John and Jakob Larsen, our competitions director, gave a very detailed and extensive update on all those types of competitive issues. The qualifying standards, and as you know, we suspended the Olympic qualification status with some derogation for the specific case around the road, but not from my recollection in the council were there any specific issues raised. I mean, everybody knows that the delivery of competition at the moment is complicated, but I've been very comforted by the amount of effort that many of our member federations have gone to in order to safely and securely deliver those opportunities for the athletes to qualify and progress through this preparation phase in large parts of the world through to the games.
Okay, thank you. Another question to Rune. Thank you, Mitch. I was struggling with your earlier note. But the question is, assuming RUSAF, I think it meets all our demands, will you personally be pleased to see Russian athletes competing under their own flag in Tokyo? Seb?
Yes. Sorry, what? Yeah, that's for me or for Rune?
No, well, it's for you. I think the question is for you. Just basically, if everything is satisfied and athletes are able to compete in Tokyo and are selected, would you be pleased to see them competing under their flag at the Olympic Games in Tokyo? Rune, you could have a comment on that too, but either of you or both of you.
Look, we have to be clear about process here. ANA status for us is a matter for the World Athletics Council and our review boards that deal with that. My principal philosophy has always been that if it's ever been possible to separate the clean athletes from the tainted system under the proposals that we created around the ANAs, that is entirely, that's entirely consistent with what we've already said. The Olympic Games clearly, and the presence of those athletes in that situation where flags and colours are able to be adopted is entirely a matter for the International Olympic Committee, but it is also in line with what we will want to do in order to get our competitors or those Russian neutral athletes into competition. The rest of that is really a matter for the International Olympic Committee.
Yeah, I think that's the important point, Mitch, because I think the IOC is not necessarily presenting the team to be competing under the Russian flag at the moment. So I think we just need to look at the IOC's rules on how all the Russian competitors can compete, because I think that's their domain.
And that's still subject to the appeal at WADA as well.
Correct, yeah. Okay, so Brian, we will pass that question on to the AIU and we'll come back to you. And I'm out of questions. Well, no, I'm not. I've got plenty, but you are. Anything from anybody else?
Can I just make a closing observation here, Jackie, if there are no
As long as you're not
questions.
asking us a question, Seb.
I'm going to ask you a question. Are you both relishing your role in senior management? No. What I really wanted to say was just to thank all our colleagues online today, because if I've been celebrating the performances of the athletes and our communications teams and our competition teams and our member federations and certainly our meeting directors in whichever guise and whichever discipline they're involved in, I would also like just to thank you guys, because it's one thing for us to be able to provide and present this content. It's another one for you to fight the sorts of battles that you always have to fight to find space for us, either in traditional or digital media. So just as we head towards the end of the year, thank you. You have made a big difference to keeping us front and center, and I know the athletes have really appreciated it. I hope on occasions they even convey that to you.
Thank you, Seb. And so thank you, everybody, for joining. I have one very last message, which is that we have our awards. We're delighted we're able to host those awards. They are virtual. It'll be on our YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook channels starting at 4 p.m. Central European time. And if there's anything any of you can do to put that into any of your websites or any of your publications, or that we would be really delighted, because we want as many people around the world to join. It's going to be a great show, and we have some extraordinary characters who have won some of these awards. And do note, there is a mix zone for you straight after it for interviewing the female and male athlete of the year. But if you can help us spread the message to get people to watch, I think they're going to thoroughly enjoy it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, and we'll be back after these messages.
Bye. Thank you.